What's up, guys? Today's video is going to be about the time I played the Ouija board at 3 a.m. and why I will never do that again. Before I get into this video, I do just want to say that this is why I personally will never play the Ouija board or use the Ouija board at 3 a.m. ever again. This is not to say that it is completely wrong to play the Ouija board. It's not to say that it's completely right to play the Ouija board. It's just my experience, what I've been through, and why it's affected me to the point where I won't use the Ouija board at that time anymore. I also just want to say that when you are using the Ouija board, you're using it at your own risk. You should definitely do your research, heavily do your research before you even purchase one. I did. I'm not saying that I'm super experienced or that like I'm an expert on playing the Ouija board, but I did a lot of research and I watched a lot of real documentaries and I read a lot of stories and all of that. I've done my research up until the point where I felt comfortable enough to actually go out and purchase one. I just want to throw that out there that, you're taking a risk with things that you don't understand. Like, no matter how much you study a subject, no matter how much you study the paranormal, you really don't understand what's on the other side until you get to the other side. As living beings and living creatures, we don't know what we're dealing with. And if that scares you, maybe using a Ouija board is not something that I would recommend doing. So it was 2014, and oddly enough, it was on Halloween. I don't know if there's a correlation between it being Halloween and it just being 3 o'clock in the morning, but that is where this story is going to start. It's October 31st, 3 a.m., 2014. I was a freshman in college, and I've always been a creepy girl. You guys know that. Like, I feel like I've mentioned that before. I love diving into the paranormal. I've even mentioned that in my last video. If you guys want to check that out, shameless plug, it'll be somewhere in the cart. So that is just my personality, and I thought it would be fun to purchase a Ouija board and use it on Halloween. Reason why we did it at 3 o'clock in the morning is boring. It's not anything exciting. It's not like we were trying to summon, Zozo or anything. It just kind of random luck happened that we got it at 3 o'clock. We played at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm sorry. So it was me, my roommate, and my boyfriend, and we were playing, and first of all, they're skeptics. I don't know why, that's not my business, and I was okay with that because I'm a full believer on all paranormal. After trying to convince these non-believers that the Ouija board works, we sat in a circle, and I remember this. We had like those fake candles like on all sides, like all 4 sides of the board, and we were sitting in a circle, and I remember I was the speaker, so I felt the energy off of me, and they really did it, and they honestly to this day probably still don't believe that it actually happened. Well, my boyfriend believes that it actually. So we get into the circle and we start, we follow the procedure of dragging the planchette, I think that's how you say it, the planchette around the board like 3 times, and then asking if there's someone with us and being very respectful, because that's kind of part of the whole deal when you're playing with the Ouija board. You have to be respectful. And I'm thinking of actually making a video of how to use the Ouija board effectively and appropriately and all of that fun stuff. So if you want to see that, give this video a thumbs up and I'll do it. So if I'm being honest with you guys, we weren't really getting any traction for a good 20 minutes, and at that point my friend was getting tired and she was like, all right, whatever, I'm going to bed. So she left, and it was just me and my boyfriend. And then I was like, one last time, Ouija, are you with us? If you're here, would you like to speak to us? I introduced myself, and then we started getting traction, right? And the weirdest thing happened in the beginning. They started repeating what I was saying, which never really happened before. I would say things like, how are you? And then they would spell out how, and then are you, the letters are you. So it was like they were repeating what I was saying, and then I'll say fine, and then they'll spell out fine. It was the most weirdest thing that I've ever experienced. So this kind of went on for a little while, up until the point where I asked them what their name was, and that was when they kind of switched up on me. And I don't remember exactly what their name was, but it was something with a C, and it wasn't a foreign name or anything. It definitely was a regular local name, and I think it belonged to a guy. It would be a guy's name. But it was a real legitimate name, so I, dumb, unexperienced, not super experienced at the time, Erica, decided to keep playing with this person quote-unquote person, because I still don't know if it was a person or not. I don't believe it was, but, you know. And I was asking them about their life, and I think after I asked them what their name was, that is when they started actually giving me unique and brand new answers. I don't know what that was about. I still really don't know what it's about, but I think I have an idea, and I'll get into that later. And so the more friendlier we got with each other, the more they opened up, and they started telling me things about their life and how they died. And I remember, so we were in St. Louis at the time, and I remember they told me that they got into an ugly car accident by Barnes Jewish Hospital, which is a hospital in St. Louis, and they died in, I think, like 1985 or something. And they were a college student at the local college, etc., etc. So they had a pretty legitimate story, and, you know, I even fact-checked everything, and I remember that the conversation was getting a little bit too friendly and a little too weird, and my boyfriend believes me. At the time, he thought that maybe I made it up, but now looking back at it, he's like, yeah, definitely that was definitely weird, and that was not you. But, so the conversation was becoming very friendly, and I decided that, you know, the answers were good, but they were very vague. Like, for example, you know how I said that they died by a hospital, by, you know, Barnes Jewish Hospital? They never said Barnes Jewish, they just said they died by a hospital. Now, there are a ton of hospitals in big cities. They said they got into a car crash. That's something very, you know, not specific enough to not guess. You know what I mean? And so they were just giving out these general answers, and I was like, wait a minute, like, what if this isn't, I'm going to call him C. What if this isn't C? What if it's somebody else just masking at this person? Because, you know, tip number one, basic, very, very basic, very, you know, amateur tip. You can't trust who you're speaking to. Like, that just makes sense. You would think that would make sense in my 19-year-old mind, or 18, whatever. I was 18. 18-year-old mind, but it didn't. And I had to kind of, like, readjust myself and, like, tell myself, like, hey, yo, guess what? You could be lied to right now, and you would have no idea. I decided to play a little mind game on them of my own, and I decided to ask them what their favorite song is. Granted, this still isn't, like, the best technique to find out if you are being manipulated by, like, some kind of foul spirit or maybe even a demon, which I'm also planning a video for that, to tell how you are being manipulated by different, you know, beings. But anyhow, it was what I thought was the smart thing to do at the time. So I asked them what their favorite song was, and they said American Pie by Don McLean. Just know that I did fact check this, and I did make sure that the numbers worked out according to, like, when they died. So they died after the song was popular, so that's how I kind of told myself mentally that maybe I am talking to this C person. But still, I don't think it was enough, and I'm going to get into why I don't think it was enough. I am very comfortable doing things like this. I'm very strong, like, mentally and emotionally when it comes to stuff like this. So, speaking to this spirit wasn't anything draining. I didn't feel like anything was being drained out of me. None of my energy, none of that. Felt like I had the upper hand on the situation and in the conversation, which is super important when you're playing a Ouija board. You really always have to have, like, the upper hand. That way you're not being weak in the situation. I wanted to know for a fact if somebody was here. Like, I wanted to know maybe, like, because I started doubting myself. I started doubting maybe it's my boyfriend fucking with me or something. And I asked them, I'm like, if you're here, give us a sign that you're here. And I asked them twice. The first time they didn't do anything, but the second time I asked them, I said, if you're here, please let us know you're here. And keep in mind, so we're in our apartment, and we're sitting on the floor in our living room, and my boyfriend has this, like, he had in his old apartment, like, this, because we were at his house, he had, like, this, what's the word, this island with, like, bar stools instead of regular chairs. So the island, because it was a condo, the island was, like, right next to the living room, and the bar stools were, like, on our side into the living room, and they had the spinny tops. They weren't, like, the stiff ones. They had the spinny tops, and I remember saying, like, if you're here, show us you're here. And the bar stool that was closest to us, because we were on the floor, spun around. I'm not kidding. I cannot make that up. It was very terrifying. I remember screaming, and I remember my boyfriend, like, jumping, because he was like, what the fuck? And keep in mind, it was also pitch black, so we probably thought that it was my roommate fucking with us, but she was literally feet away, sound asleep. And so me and my boyfriend were literally terrified. And I remember getting back to the board, shaking at this point, because I personally never had a full-on, like, show me if you're here experience like that. Like every time I would play, something would flicker or something small would happen, but this time the bar stool actually turned, and I felt like their energy was getting more, it was growing more, and it was scaring me. I was a little scared. I was a little skeptic to continue playing. I was like, that never happened. I never dealt with an entity that had so much, I guess, strength and the power to actually move an object. And so I started asking them very simple questions, trying to like lower the comfort and for my, safety, and just to kind of like guide the conversation somewhere else. And I remember just asking them like very random questions, like what's your favorite color? How old are you? Just stuff like that, just stuff like little chit chat kind of conversations. I never asked anything about what they see, only because I learned the hard way not to do that, but that's a whole different story. Because I just wanted to keep their mind busy and kind of keep their mind like going in a million different places so they can keep up with their story. And after kind of throwing random questions at them, I asked them, what's your name? I did this because I wanted to make sure that it was C that I was talking to, and I didn't want them to change their story, because like I said, you don't really know what you're dealing with. And so I said, what's your name? And literally my hand felt ice cold. It was cold like the entire time, but it felt ice cold and stiff, even worse. And my hand just like literally went across the board like crazy, because I was terrified. And that's when I kind of like was like, I can't play no more. And then they stopped in the middle of the board, and I was like, what's your name? And then they dragged my hand to no. And I don't really know how to interpret that. That really scared me. So I was just like, we're gonna go now. And then they started spelling out M-A, so M-A like ma. And that's when I said, goodbye, thank you for speaking to us, goodbye, we're gonna go now. And I dragged the thing to goodbye. And then we turned on all the lights, and my boyfriend was like, why did you do that? Like, they were gonna give us a name. And I'm just like, I don't trust that. They changed their story up. And I don't know how factual this is, because I haven't done enough research to make any claims like that, but we all know about Zozo the demon and how he manipulates people who use the Ouija board, and sometimes he even possesses them. But there are other demons that do that too, and I've heard from other sources that there's a demon called Mama, and that's when I backed up. I stopped, and I was like, I'm not playing no more, because they spelled out M-A, and I was like, it was over with. So the reason why I will not play a Ouija board at that time ever again is because of that, because you never know who you're welcoming into your safe zone. You never know who you're welcoming into speaking with you and to like connecting with you in that way. And so that experience really scared the shit out of me, mostly because at this point in life, I'd say 4 odd years later, I definitely think that whoever was communicating with me was evil and negative and not good. And I don't want to go and say that it was a demon, but I think it was a demon, or it was a bad entity. And I just don't want to be a part of that. So ever since then, I've been playing the Ouija board in the daytime. I don't even like playing it past 8 p.m. just because I don't want to take the risk of ever coming across that entity. I know I never will, but like entities like that ever again. Also, don't be like me and play the Ouija board in your house. That's really stupid and very dangerous. Don't do it. But yeah, that is all that I have for you guys today. If you guys like this, please give it a thumbs up and let me know what you think. Have you ever played the Ouija board and something crazy happened like that? Because I'm just curious. I want to know if this Mama character, I'm calling them a character because I don't know if that is who it was, because I stopped the game before they could spell the name, is a demon or a negative spirit, or if it's a common one that people have heard of before. Make sure you guys subscribe to my channel, because I make a lot of creepy videos, and hit that notification bell so you can get notified for said creepy videos. Also follow me on my social media. I am active on Twitter and Instagram. And yeah, I hope you guys are having a great day. Stay well and continue to be awesome. Bye-bye.